I used to consider myself a master juggler. Obviously, I'm not always the best at juggling with balls, but I juggle many roles and responsibilities in my life. I'm a wife, a mother, a student, an employee, a small business owner, a life coach in training, a visiting teacher, a primary teacher, a friend, and more. And I know that these roles can be really hard to keep everything balanced, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that can create a list like that. In today's society, it's so easy to fill our lives with so many good things that it can be hard to find time for the better or the best things, like Elder Oaks spoke about a few conferences ago. Now, I used to feel like if I could cram enough things into my life, the more things I could fit in, the better. And in fact, I really began to resonate with this sign that normally hangs over the calendar in my mother's kitchen. She was kind enough to let me borrow it. It reads, "There will be no crisis this week. My schedule is full." Now, there may be some of you out there who have time management completely handled. You're always focused on your priorities, and you have plenty of free time. And if that's the case for you, great job. You probably don't need this speech. However, if you're like me and you sometimes feel like there just simply is not enough time in the day, or you find yourself with a rare free moment and you're like, what do I focus on first? Then I would just like to explore with you what happens when we get overwhelmed and show you ways to find your way out if it's a place where you frequently find yourself. Now, in Mosiah 4:27, it describes this living in overwhelm as running faster than we have strength. And while this can be done for brief periods of time, when it becomes a way of life, it can lead to physical illness, exhaustion, lack of patience, strained relationships, and more. I know when I get run down, I really cannot give my best to my husband and to my kids. And under normal circumstances, most of us wouldn't yell at our family members. However, when we're exhausted or stressed out on a consistent basis, it doesn't take much to make us snap. I actually got to a point where I was finding myself getting sick on Sundays on a regular basis because it was one of the only times I allowed myself time to rest. I resisted any effort to bring more order into my life, but at what cost to my health and my family? Intellectually, I knew that I needed to put my own oxygen mask on first, so to speak, like the airlines always remind me to do when I fly. I knew that I couldn't give indefinitely without taking time to rest and recharge myself. And in Scream-Free Parenting, Hal Runkel describes this concept as I love me so that I can love you. And he hypothesizes that we are not really capable of loving other people until we love ourselves enough to make sure that our basic needs are being taken care of. And in fact, we can't keep giving to others as freely as we'd like when we're depleted ourselves. It was when I began to realize that it's not selfish to take care of myself. In fact, it was absolutely vital if I was going to keep up with the things that really mattered in my life. And so that was when I really started to change. And I took the advice of one of my wise friends, and she said, you really do not have to be completely overwhelmed before you can tell someone no. I was like, duh. How simple is that? It's simple and yet profound. And I began to realize I create my life. I choose what to do with my time and my resources and my energy. And when I'm so busy that all I can do is run from activity to activity, there's no time to think and no time to prioritize. Stephen R. Covey described the things that tend to fill our lives when we're in this mode as being urgent but not important. If this is where you find yourself, how do you find a way out? Well, I started by simply saying no to all of the things except for my most important priorities. I took care of my family. I kept up with school and work and church, but most of the other things didn't get much of my attention. And I started to really take time to notice where my attention was. I would close my eyes and take a deep breath and notice if I was focused on what I should have done in the past or focused on what I need to do in the future, and I would really intentionally focus on bringing that attention back into the present moment. And then I would focus on just one thing at a time. I also found that writing can be an amazing antidote to overwhelm. And Pamela Brunner of Make Your Success Easy shared that while our brains are incredible, they do have limited capacity. And when we're trying to keep everything in our head, where we use our brain power to try to remember everything, and we're not able to use them to sort and prioritize and solve problems. So she suggested a process called doing a brain dump. And basically, all it is you write. Whether you type or write, you just write everything that's in your head. You don't have to, it doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to censor it. You just write and write and write and write until you can't think of anything else to write. And once you've done that, you can go back and you can look at all of the things that are consuming little bits and pieces of your attention. And you can decide what to discard, what to prioritize, and you can even make a to-do list from the things that you've written down. And I found that as I started doing this, my priorities became clearer. My relationships with my husband and my kids got better, and I found that as I focused on one thing at a time, I was able to accomplish more and do it better than I could when I was multitasking all over the place. So, especially if you find yourself in overwhelm, I would challenge you to just pick one of these things. Just say no to someone. You don't have to apologize or explain. Just say no. Take a deep breath and notice where your attention is. Bring it present. Or just do a brain dump. And you'll find that as you do this, you'll create the space in your life to really create the life you want. Thank you.